Have you ever found yourself in a game slump? Looking for a game that's like Animal Crossing but never finding something that perfectly fits the mold or gives you the same feeling? Today I'm here to ask the question, what is it about Animal Crossing that feels so special? And why is it so difficult for other chill, cozy, or wholesome games to live up to the universal adoration and unique nostalgic feelings that come with Animal Crossing games? My history with this beloved game is probably similar to many other people who entered the world of Animal Crossing with the release of New Horizons. Before the trailer for its release, I had only heard the words Animal Crossing in passing and never paid it much attention. In my younger years, I was too obsessed with Pokemon to give any other games much of a chance on my pink DS Lite. As a kid, I had a Nintendo 64 and a GameCube, but I rarely got to decide on new games. I was usually at the mercy of what my dad chose to buy for himself. Once in a great while, I could choose for a birthday or Christmas. However, while I can clearly see the shelves of Blockbuster in my imagination, admiring the many games available for rent, or turning the pages of Walmart and Toys R Us catalogs during the holidays, I don't have a single memory of any of those adorable villagers of Animal Crossing as a child. Back in March of 2020 and the release of New Horizons, I quickly became addicted to Animal Crossing and discovered it was unlike anything I had ever played before. With each new achievement and each new villager that moved in, I was thrilled. These hits of dopamine kept me hooked and wanting more. Small achievements like cracking the code on turnip prices for the first time traveling back and forth to my husband's island to become a first-time billionaire, or the first time a villager that I wasn't too fond of finally asked to move away. Rest in peace, Rocket. Gone but never forgotten. Each new day brought new challenges and excitement. Every die-hard fan of this series understands the thrill of these experiences, but every fan also understands the inevitability of eventually experiencing burnout. When the feeling of burnout comes, you do what any other self-respecting gamer would do, and you search for another game to scratch the same itch. I strongly believe that due to the viral popularity of Animal Crossing in 2020 during the great Stay Inside, a whole new genre of games were thrust into the spotlight. How many YouTube top 10 games like Animal Crossing or games to play if you like Animal Crossing exist? The new buzzwords when marketing games became chill, cozy, wholesome, life sim. Games fitting this description have been around for much longer than many gamers realize, but thanks to the exposure from Animal Crossing New Horizons, a whole new huge number of casual and non-casual gamers had been introduced to the idea of play without pressure. Something about playing Animal Crossing always helps me fall asleep. The feeling of no pressure and no such thing as lost time, meeting objectives, or every second counts puts my mind at ease. When the inevitable burnout happened, I began looking for similar games to play before bed. In this search, I found many wonderful games that I enjoyed, but none of them allowed me to drift into dreamland without a sudden jerking awake to save before I fell asleep, or a panic that something bad had happened while I was in Snoozeville. Ironically, the only games I could find to fill the Animal Crossing-sized hole in my heart was, well, more Animal Crossing. I then began a journey to play the previous games that had laid the foundation for this masterpiece of gaming that I so loved. I took on a journey on Facebook Marketplace to find a Nintendo DS, and I started with New Leaf. Upon beginning this game, I was immediately flooded with misplaced nostalgia. Something about the graphics of Days Gone By paired with the characters from the game that I had grown to love so much, I instantly felt at home with this game, as if I was booting up an old friend, despite never playing one of the games before. It was then I knew there's something very different about this series, something that I would never find in another game, a unique feeling these games give me that I had never had from any other series. It is that feeling that I'd like to explore today, the differences that set Animal Crossing apart from any other series out there. It's hard to prioritize what sets the game apart from others, so I will go through the list in no particular order. The first thing that sets Animal Crossing apart so strongly from other games in this genre is the ability to play at your own pace. When given a home loan by Tom Nook, he instructs you on how to pay off your debts, and it's clear throughout the game how to pay off your subsequent loans for home upgrades. However, never do you feel a sense of deadline to pay. You're allowed to do things at your own pace and pay as you please. Because of this mechanic, there is room to breathe, to catch bugs, make friends, collect outfits, and decorate to your heart's content. Early on in my playthrough, my main goal became becoming BFFs with my favorite villagers and collecting their photos. This was so much more important to me than upgrading my house or 100%ing my museum, and the freedom to prioritize in this way was so liberating. This draws me back every night at bedtime. The freedom to play without objectives, time limits, obsessive saving. No other game similar to Animal Crossing gets this quite right. The original designers of Animal Crossing were intentional in making a game with no story, objectives, or ending. The freedom to choose not only what you want to do each time you pick up the game, but also to get to choose what not to do. In New Leaf, despite hours of play, I am so far from paying off my home. I'm not even halfway through getting the upgrades. Why not? Simple, because I don't feel like it. I would much prefer spending my days fulfilling coffee orders with Brewster at the Roost, while simultaneously scrolling through the wiki to get everyone's order just right. Decorating rooms in the museum, or sailing away with Cap'n just to hear him serenade me about his grandma and her funny voices, or his wife eating all of his chips while he was away at sea. Rarely do I catch bugs, pick fruit, or go fishing. In all honesty, there are nights when I'm so exhausted from the real-world objectives, deadlines, and stress of the hustle and bustle of my life that I literally walk around, check the stores, talk to one or two of my animal friends, and then drift off to sleep. Something about this series of events is so relaxing for me. I'm able to turn off my brain so completely and block out all of the stresses and anxiety that would normally impede my ability to fall asleep. While other games that claim to be in the same genre may boast claims of being chill or relaxing, none of them achieve this authentic feel of Animal Crossing. Part of the difference is the lack of reminders about completing objectives. There's no task list, completion bars, or percentages staring at you, reminding you to complete things. If you want to know how many bugs are missing from your museum or how much is remaining on your home loan, you have to purposely seek out that information. It isn't ever present on your screen like in other games. That being said, if I decide to pick up on a Saturday morning and I'm feeling a little froggy, I can do timed races against the clock on Cap'n's Island on New Leaf, or more complex home designing and landscaping in New Horizons. There are more lively options when you want them, but you have to go out of your way to seek them out, making them feel not so required. Another thing about these more lively activities is even in timed trials on the island, you still don't feel pressure because there's always the ability to try again in Animal Crossing. With the exception of villagers moving away, nothing is permanent, and you can usually undo anything that you don't like. Plant a tree in the wrong place, regret where you moved the museum, hate what you've done with your living room? Okay, then change it. Try again. One of the beauties of this game is the never-ending opportunities you have to get things right. As discussed later in the video, the creators of the original Animal Crossing game gave the game the genre of communication. And I can't help but wonder if that idea was present in the decisions that made it possible to try again without the fear of failure or disappointment. In everyday life, communication can sometimes be challenging. If you say the wrong thing to a friend, pick the wrong place to live, buy a couch you don't like, or waste too much of your time, these all have negative implications. The fear of these implications and the permanence of making the wrong decisions in life can cause anxiety in the most mentally healthy and well-adjusted people, and can be crippling to those that struggle with their mental health. But in Animal Crossing, we have the ability to make questionable choices without fear of regret and unlimited opportunity to try again until we get it just right. Some players of New Horizons feel like they need to have the most aesthetically pleasing villagers and never let them go once they have the perfect 10 animals on their island. I will admit, I used to feel the same way. I never foresaw myself letting go of Coco, Marshall, or Penelope. But after playing the earlier games in the series, I realized the animals in your town were never meant to be permanent. In New Leaf, you can go 2 days without playing, boot up your DS, and boom, one of your favorite friends has moved away, and all you have to show for it is a cold, unfeeling letter in your mailbox. At first, this difference was jarring, and it upset me. I've realized that there is a certain amount of peace that comes with the idea of no matter how many times you talk to or write to your villagers, give them fruit or all the gifts they want, they might just move on. And there isn't much you can do about it. There's also a certain amount of excitement that comes with new villagers moving in on a more regular basis. Even if the ones you get aren't your cup of tea, that's okay too. Why? Because they won't stay forever. There is something that feels a little wrong about asking a villager to stay on your island 5 times. If they want to move on so badly, I'm now way more tempted to just let them, with a few exceptions, of course. The feeling of playing without pressure is significant in all of the games across the series, but I feel like it's the greatest in New Leaf and New Horizons with the ability to save at will. Going to bed to save was a little more challenging, and after playing nearly all of the games in the franchise, I can say these games in general are the most perfect. I, like many of the fans of Animal Crossing, don't fully understand why many of the amazing things in New Leaf were left out of New Horizons, but the ability to design your entire island and place items in almost any place you'd like is such an amazing addition to the game that I can't be mad. I only hope that the next addition to the series they bring back more of the animals' unique dialogue and personality, and more of the beloved shops and characters. It was a nice addition to see them on Harv's Island, but they feel like a lesser version of themselves than in the past games. Another thing that sets Animal Crossing apart is the avatar. Across all of the games I've played, my avatar looks slightly different from the others. And in New Horizons, the avatars are markedly different from the other games. But across all of them, New Leaf, Wild World, City Folk, and New Horizons, I had such a strong feeling that my avatar was me. In many other games I've played, I have a tendency to go overboard when it comes to character creation. I've definitely been guilty of spending 2 to 3 hours on the character creation screen of the game, long enough that by the time the game begins, I'm already tired of it. In Animal Crossing, there are a few options, enough to make you feel as if you're creating something unique, but not so many that you get overwhelmed or feel indecisive. Something else unique to Animal Crossing games is the slow introduction to character customization. In New Horizons, being initially given only 8 hairstyles to choose from, then as the game progresses, unlocking additional styles and colors. Or in earlier games, choosing your hairstyle by answering Rover's questions at the start, and then later unlocking the shampoodle where you can get a fresh look. There's something about the simplicity of the avatar that allows you to easily transfer your own personality onto them. Luckily, I had already identified strongly with the pink-haired avatar in New Horizons, so the transition to the older games where the pink-haired girl was the norm was easy. Being able to self-impose onto the adorable avatar on my screen also made it easy to feel like I was truly making friends with the animals in my town, and added a little bit of a sting to disappointing them as well. In New Horizons, being asked, "Where have you been?" or being told by Anchovy that he's been waiting outside my house for countless days for me to come back had a certain amount of guilt and sting. A hard lesson to learn about the older games is basically the further back in Animal Crossing's history you go, the more finicky the villagers and NPCs are. If you say the wrong thing, give the wrong gift, or quit before saving, you may be struck with some strong words. And if you're anything like me, it may hurt your feelings or help you quickly identify your new least favorite animal in your town. I feel like the emotional reactions that come from these interactions are heavily dependent on the feeling that they are speaking directly to you. Not your character in the game as you would feel in other games, but you. The personalized feeling of conversations from different types of villagers feels special and unique. At the beginning of New Horizons and throughout the entire game in Wild World and New Leaf, there is more longevity with these unique feelings and conversations in the older games due to the decrease of repetitiveness in conversations with your townspeople. Truly, you feel as if, little by little, the animals are opening up to you and becoming your friend. It's so satisfying to finally befriend an animal who in the beginning was an old grump calling you names. This feeling was definitely intentional in the creation of the Animal Crossing games, as shown here in this 2001 interview with the creators of Animal Crossing. When referencing a genre for the game, this is what they had to say. From the start, we weren't interested in genres, like RPG or action. We made no effort to classify what we were doing like that. One of our early propositions was to make a game unlike any that has come before. We were consciously trying to create something in a new genre that you couldn't easily reduce to a single label. But in reality, you have to write a genre for the retail package labeling. But we hadn't thought about that at all. It was like, what should we write? We have no idea. Yeah, I remember someone saying, well, how about we just say communication? Communication indeed is the main focus of the game, and it's evidenced by the dramatic emotes that go along with the conversations you have with your various villagers and NPCs. Emotes that also evoke a strong feeling of truly communicating with your friends. The ability to choose your appearance in the earlier games by answering questions about yourself has a special feeling to it as well, which leads me to my next point that sets Animal Crossing apart. The latest addition to the franchise has perfected this. If you think about the way that you do things in Animal Crossing, they try to make everything seem as if you're actually doing the activities. Rather than simply selecting where to place buildings on the map, you instead receive a building kit from Tom Nook, walk to the location, and place it where the building will eventually be built. From buildings to terraforming to changing outfits, the interface always feels seamless and the game rarely breaks immersion. At times this can feel tedious when taking on a large project. For me personally, I have found it infuriating and sometimes anxiety-producing to dig up a whole huge field of untamed flowers to make room for a new project, or laying paving on a large area. But at the end of the day, the projects would not be nearly as rewarding or feel as if you had done them yourself if there was an easy delete flowers or place all tool. The fact that you have to manually do all of the work yourself lends to the feeling of your avatar truly being you and reaping the rewards of your hard work. In the earlier editions of the franchise, things are still more menu-driven, with inventory, letters, and held items. However, the introduction of a smartphone and some other adjustments, such as needing to be at the post station in the airport to send a letter, eliminate some of those unnecessary menus from the earlier games. The satisfaction that comes with completing these types of everyday tasks comes in part from the ever so satisfying sounds that come along with completing them. Part of the magic of Animal Crossing is undoubtedly the music and sounds. Even in the earliest iteration of the games, the sound designers had this to say. How did you go about creating the sound effects? As you might guess, a lot of sounds were recorded straight from nature and inserted into the game. Each time the seasons change, new insects appear in Animal Crossing. And for those sounds, I actually went into the mountains and recorded local insects there. It was a real pain getting a recording of the cicadas. I remember seeing that sign you made posted on the door in the recording room, "Do not disturb insect collecting." In total, I think I recorded over 500 different sounds. There's over 100 different kinds of footstep sounds alone. I got different samples for walking on marble, walking in water. Did you record your own footsteps then? I did. For the waterfront footsteps effect, for example, I recorded myself in sandals walking along the beach. Knowing what a huge emphasis was put on the minutia of sounds in this game from the very beginning, it starts to become apparent if you turn your volume up and listen. The small sounds serve as tone indicators throughout many of the activities, including building friendships, fishing, decorating, and everything else. From bugs to emotes, to chores, to footsteps, to the weather. Small, novel, and comforting sounds are always an accompaniment to the ever-present soundtrack that is always by your side. YouTube videos containing nothing more than Animal Crossing soundtracks get millions of views because the music is just that good. It's comforting and also so easy to tune out if you're focused on gameplay, studying, reading, or doing paperwork. Animal Crossing music, lo-fi or plus ringing sounds with crackling fire on YouTube is always a go-to for many in those situations. The music varies so much between hours of the day, for events and seasons, whether confronted with the dreaded 2 p.m. or the breathtaking beauty of the seldom heard 5 a.m. soundtrack. This music definitely sets the game apart. It's ever present and it never seems to get in the way. Commonly in games, music is used to set apart day and night, indoors and outdoors, the saloon from the farm, and so on. However, in no other game are soundtracks customized on this level. They change with the seasons, the time of day down to the hour, the character you're speaking to, and the building you happen to be in. The voices in Animal Crossing are also so unique. The game designers have said in interviews the voices are engineered to mimic human speech, to further the theme of communication. There is something so special about the speech that mimics human speech without the stress of spoken language. The first time I heard an animal with a deep voice, I was so taken aback I laughed out loud and asked, "What is wrong with him?" But now, I've come to love all of the wide variety of voices. Recognizing the differences in voices throughout the series gives an added layer of personality to the characters and layers on yet another element of real-life communication, appreciating friends for their differences. In my search for games like Animal Crossing, I never was able to find another game that had the play without pressure aspect quite as perfect. It was easy to find games that had elements of choosing what you did and did not want to do. It's fairly easy to find games where there are many options for your daily activities, such as fishing, chatting with people, farming, or exploring, like Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon games. But in these games, the clock or daily time system really adds a layer of pressure and the feeling of always being pressed for time, needing to get everything done. In my case, usually the need to get every crop watered and every gift given before 2 a.m. I was no stranger to mechanics like these, as I had played many hours of The Sims as a kid, and the time clock system is similar. But experiencing this after playing Animal Crossing shed a new light on it and gave me a new appreciation for the real-time clock system. This Reddit post really encompasses the unique nature of the real-time clock and just how difficult it is to find a game that feels the same. I'm at my wit's end, help me. What started as a curious, oh, I kind of want to play a game like Animal Crossing on the PC, turned into, why is every suggestion nothing like Animal Crossing? Which turned into, why is it so hard to find real-time games? I've tried Googling to no avail. Maybe I'm not using the right keywords. Requirements. Must be a game that uses the same clock time style as Animal Crossing. Preferably in the same chill life sim style as Animal Crossing. Also, preferably on PC, but other platforms are okay too. I do not mean Stardew Valley, My Time at Portia, any other game like the above. Needless to say, this Redditor did not find a game that he was looking for. It's surprising that more game developers have not taken note of the popularity of this mechanic and incorporated it into their own games. From the very earliest days of Animal Crossing, this was always the plan. It truly does set the game apart in such a major way. No other game does this that I can find. Time traveling being an option in New Horizons, I found to be helpful and used it often. However, once I began playing the older games in the series, I never even considered time travel. I had an issue with my DS in New Leaf where I was accidentally playing in 2027 for the first year, but I eventually figured out how to make the year right. The option of time traveling has been speculated as intentional, but I don't think it was. When developing New Leaf, one of the developers of Animal Crossing specifically said this in an interview. I'm sure there are plenty of players who have fiddled with the clock when playing the game, but it's a shame, as a really nice aspect of Animal Crossing is the sense of unity that comes with time passing in sync with the real world. It means that everyone gets to share that sense of the seasons and the time passing, so we are really keen to retain that element of the game. The real-time clock really does feel relaxing, as minutes or hours spent in the game feel much longer than the same amount of time spent in the real world. So there you have it. All of the reasons I find Animal Crossing to be magical. Truly, these games are like lightning in a bottle. I don't think anyone could ever capture the feeling that comes along with these games, but I've tried to express why I think they're so special. Leave a comment on what you find magical about these games below. If you made it this far, I really appreciate your time, and I hope you do something today that makes you happy. See you later. Bye!